You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is Jeff Leonard. I'm with NACS, and on this show, we talk about things that matter to convenience stores. They matter to convenience stores. They matter to about 160 million customers a day, whether inside the store or at the pump.
And I am John Eichberger with NACS and the Fuels Institute, and that's right, we power the world, power America, power people, whether it's your body or your car, filling up 42 million fill-ups a day with the energy of your choice at convenience stores. And we have a very special guest today, our third co-host, Mr. Donovan Woods.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
And today, guys, we're going to be talking about a report issued by the Fuels Institute in the summer of 2017 called Tomorrow's Vehicles. You know, one of the things that the Fuels Institute was put together to do is try to provide some realistic analysis and projections about what the market might look like in the future. We hear so much stuff in the news about, you know, France in 2017 said, we're going no gas or petroleum fuels after 2040 except hybrids. England comes up, goes, we're going to do the same thing except hybrids. I don't think they realize that hybrids run on gasoline and diesel fuel, but that's beside the point. It's a nice safety net for their people. But those type of news stories, and in the industry, automakers actually investing so much into vehicles, that getting people really thinking about what is going to happen and how fast is it going to come. When I get calls from marketers all the time, like, hey, John, you know, do we need to start replacing our underground storage tanks with the electric chargers? What's happening in the marketplace? So Tomorrow's Vehicles is a compilation of 3 different reports using Navigant Research Forecast to really try to paint a picture of what the transportation market might look like in 2025.
So are any of these chapters having to do with the jetpack that I've been waiting for?
No, unfortunately. That one we put aside because that's proprietary information. You can have the jetpack. What I want, you know, we're going to have William Shatner at the NACS show this year. We need to talk to him about getting, you know, transportation stuff going. I want to be transported. I do not like this type of driving. If I want to be in Vegas tomorrow, I want to just and be there within like 3 seconds.
So that transponder is going to be petroleum driven.
It might be. It might be.
So let's go through this report. We have Tomorrow's Vehicles. It's not going to be about jetpacks. It's not going to be about transponders. It's not going to be about anything involving things going through the air. But it is really 3 different reports or 3 different chapters looking at what's going on with Tomorrow's Vehicles. You guys want to start with looking at just the market in general in terms of what we expect for sales?
Yeah, so I think the big takeaway from this is nothing's going to happen real fast. I think what a lot of people seem to forget is the United States has more than 250 million registered vehicles on the roads. And to have any impact on changing that market will require a Herculean effort. And, you know, we keep hearing news about electric vehicles gaining market share. They are. They're growing fast. This report says they're growing at about a 28% annual compounded growth rate. That is impressive. But they were 0.4% of sales last year in 2016, a record year for light-duty vehicle sales. And so even a really hot moving product is going to have a hard time getting market share in a short period of time. So what the takeaway is in terms of for the light duty vehicles is right now we're looking at 97%, 98% of vehicles on the road are liquid. By 2025, we're still expecting 96% of the vehicles on the road to be electric. And that's, you know, for a marketer selling liquid petroleum and biofuels, that's pretty good news. You know, you're going to hear a lot about all these changes, but the fundamentals of the market really dictate a slow transition, and it's not going to be where you wake up tomorrow and go, holy cow, what just happened? But, you know, in 15 years, if you haven't been paying attention, yeah, you might wake up and go, uh-oh, what just happened? So,
you know, I think about the report that the Institute put out earlier this year on the fuel distribution and how big that is, how massive it is. It's quite a bit of an investment that was made over numerous years to get this going as to what it is. So I agree. Just to think of changing over vehicles is a little bit harder than people think. Cars on the road now for 10, 12 years if you want them to be.
Yep.
So to think of getting rid of your car like you get rid of a cell phone or a mobile device is not the same comparison, although that's the way it seems to be being used.
Now, the way you guys broke up the report, or the way the Fuels Institute broke up the report, they talk about light-duty vehicles, medium-duty vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there that just think, okay, there's cars and trucks. So now we have 3 categories. Take us through each of those, and what are the scenarios going forward?
Yeah, so the light-duty vehicle market is basically your passenger vehicle. So your pickup trucks, your cars, your sedans, your SUVs, your crossovers, that's your light-duty market. Your medium-duty market and your heavy-duty market are usually more your commercial-grade vehicles. Your heavy-duty, we're going to classify those big rig trucks going down the road. Your medium-duty could be smaller delivery trucks and vans that you see with boxes on the back. So it's a range, and there's specific classifications of weight and gross vehicle weight restrictions that apply to them. We lumped medium and heavy-duty into the same report. And a lot of people say, okay, why do I care? Well, quite frankly, because medium and heavy-duty vehicles put a lot of miles on these roads, and they consume a lot of energy. And if you think about it, they're typically run as fleets. The transition to an alternative powertrain, you can calculate the return on investment if you're operating a fleet much faster than you can for your own car. Because if you're, say I put about 20,000 miles a year on my car, that is a lot for a passenger vehicle, for a light-duty vehicle. That is nothing for a heavy-duty commercial vehicle that may be putting 100 to 200,000 miles a year on their vehicle. You start calculating an investment on a per-mile basis on that kind of return. If you can save money on fuel, you might make the investment in alternatives. We wanted to see, if we're seeing a slow transition in alternative powertrains in passenger vehicles, could we anticipate a faster conversion in the commercial vehicle space? And quite frankly, we looked at it, and the answer is not really.
Yeah, because you look at the average commute for people. Now, depends on where you are in the country. Maybe say, I wish my commute were that, but it's about 33. The average car goes about 33 miles a day. The average truck, if you're a trucker, goes about 400 miles.
Right.
So it's about 1/10. So will the heavy-duty vehicles really determine everything because of how much more they drive, or will it be those passenger vehicles that don't cost $200,000 or whatever a truck may cost, a big rig?
The big rigs cost a lot more,
okay.
And that's part of the problem. So when natural gas was really of interest to a lot of people, the cost for the 3 of us to convert our own vehicles to natural gas about $6,000 or $7,000 per car. To convert a big rig could be $60,000. So the other thing is, on the heavy duty side, the real interest is how efficient is it? And we're talking 5, 6, 7 miles per gallon. We're not talking 30. We're talking very low numbers, low teens maybe if you're lucky. Any improvement is a significant jump. If you go from 7 to 8 miles per gallon, some people go, well, that's nothing. Well, that's more than 10%. That's a big jump. But it's also power. When we look at the forecast, gasoline and diesel are going to dominate the commercial market through 2025. That's no surprise. The other technologies that are really viable, with the exception of natural gas, just don't have the power to weight ratio you need to justify. If you put a battery on a heavy duty truck, in order to get the power, that battery is going to weigh as much as your cargo, and you just lost your entire profit margin there.
So, John, just to play devil's advocate, I read a lot of things that go out on social media, and I know certain delivery trucks, whether it's FedEx or whether it's UPS, are constantly in the news for changing over certain fleets to natural gas or to a different type of fuel. Was that calculated into this in terms of what will happen, or are you going to see more fleets go that route?
Yeah, that was included. And what you're seeing with those fleets is they've got some logistical advantages. Their vehicles come home every night.
Right.
And so you don't need to, if you're converting to natural gas, you don't need high pressure compression units because you just plug them into a time fill device where they refuel overnight. They sit there 10 hours. The driver comes back the next morning. It's loaded, ready to go. So there's a lot of advantages when you have a return at home fleet to convert to an alternative powertrain. So that is an area, and I kind of expected we'd see a little bit more aggressive growth projections there, but natural gas is struggling a little bit because it's just not as price competitive as it was 4 years ago. $2 gasoline and $2.20 diesel fuel, you're not really seeing a huge jump because natural gas doesn't change very much. Now, for fleet operators looking to stabilize their energy costs, natural gas makes a lot of sense because the price isn't going to change for 5 years. And that's a big advantage. But we're really seeing slow growth.
Yeah,
and no matter whether it's in the United States or Canada, because we modeled Canada as well, we're not seeing significant or rapid acceleration in the commercial duty vehicle at the very least.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could almost draw a parallel to what came first, the chicken or the egg, in terms of what will guide our future. Will it be the vehicles will change, or will it be the fueling that will change? But what I'm hearing perhaps is that the fleets will lead the change, because that is self-contained. You can get the vehicle, you're filling it up yourself because you probably have some sort of your own fueling. And then maybe from that, you might have people say, well, I like this kind of vehicle. I'm going to get it for myself. Is that a possible scenario, or is that covered?
That's a very realistic scenario, because if you think about all the discussion on electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, most of the advocates are not talking about the three of us buying any electric autonomous vehicle. They're talking about the shared service providers converting their fleets to electric autonomous, because, again, you're getting 100,000 miles a year instead of 15, and you are able to capitalize your investment across a big swath of vehicles instead of one at a time. And so your economics, when you're dealing with economies of scale, a fleet compared to an individual owner, are very different. And so they could be the tip of the spear as the market starts to change. And what happens, in my opinion, and we've looked at consumer behavior, is consumers like familiarity. Let's say you're in a market and you never see an electric vehicle. It never crosses your mind to buy one. Now, if you see a couple people driving, that piques your curiosity. But what if you start seeing an entire fleet of electric vehicles cruising around your neighborhood?
Yep.
Well, that looks viable. Maybe I should look at it. And you start planting these seeds of interest and growth in the minds of the consumer, even though it's not a consumer product at the time. It's, chicken and egg, I don't know about that, but it's definitely, there's going to be leaders in the market, and I think the fleets could be the leader.
You know, I know it may trend that people may look at this and go, well, you know what, I'm going to download the light-duty vehicle more because I actually drive a light-duty vehicle. This is the focus. But just for those out there that are listening that don't think about heavy-duty and medium-duty, think about how often you use Amazon. Think about how often you go to the grocery store and you like having products on the shelves constantly there. No matter when you go, it's there. They don't get there by our Toyota Corollas and our Hondas and things like that. They get there by these trucks. So it matters in terms of the consumer pricing on things. If they can save costs somewhere, maybe it does reflect back to the consumer. So we should all care what happens in the heavy-duty and medium-duty fleet.
And, when the economy grows, the medium heavy-duty fleet gets on the road, and they consume fuel. And so if you are interested in fuel supply, fuel prices, you need to understand that market. You're right, Donovan. A lot of times we get so focused on our myopic approach to looking at passenger cars because those things are sexy. Those things are cool. They're exciting. They're stuff we touch and feel every day. But in terms of impact on the economy as a whole, man, if you're not paying attention to the commercial grade products, you're missing out on probably a third to half of the market and the impact it can have, not just on fuel supply demand, but on cost of goods sold in the grocery store or the department store, is absolutely significant. And even to Amazon. I mean, until drones take off, they're dependent upon gasoline and diesel commercial vehicles too.
Yes, they are.
Unless they can convert to these others, which until they're cost competitive, I don't see that happening.
Well, I could always put it in my jetpack or my backpack and my jetpack.
If we can just beam them to me, again, that would make things a lot easier.
But you raised another interesting point, thinking about how do we get to change, and I'm probably oversimplifying this marketing premise, but basically it goes, for something innovative, make it seem familiar. And that's why you see marketers say things like, this is the iPhone of whatever, or it's just like this. You see it with TV shows or movies all the time. It's like Star Wars, but on ground or something like that. Right. So take the innovative and make it seem familiar. And the other side of that is take the familiar and make it seem innovative. But it seems like in this case, we're looking more at taking innovative and saying it's just like what you do now, but better in some level.
And I think that'll work. I think that is a strategy going forward. I think early electric vehicles, decades ago, were trying to carve out a niche as being special, unique, and different. They are special. They are unique. They are different. But I think you're right, Jeff. I think it comes down to we need to have customers like familiarity, and you want their experience to be similar. The big difference with electric vehicle is you don't go fill up with fuel. And let's be honest, we represent with NACS the convenience fuel retailing industry. Customers don't like filling up their car. I don't care who they are. And if they can avoid that refueling occasion and still get where they want to go and maybe save money, they like that. And that's an attractive element. The challenge that the industry has, the auto industry has, is getting that performance and cost at the right level and then convincing consumers to change, which is one of the things that I pull out of this tomorrow's vehicles is the market looks almost exactly the same in 8 years as it does today. But underneath, things are moving. And 5 years after that, I believe by 2030, the market will start to accelerate and change. And that is where you start seeing the fundamental shifts. And unless we understand that, we can become complacent and we can miss the boat, and we can miss what's actually happening to take advantage. There's opportunity to take advantage of stuff. But if we're not paying attention to it, tomorrow's vehicle sets a stage. We don't have to worry about it right now. But I guarantee you the next time we do a forecast project like this, the outcome's going to be quite different, and we need to be ready for it.
So you set the stage for tomorrow's vehicles. Now set the stage for where people can read about it.
If you are interested in any in what's going on with vehicles in the future, powertrains, there's a lot of other nuggets we didn't get to today. Go to fuelsinstitute.org, research, and download tomorrow's vehicles today.
And thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. For more information, go to nacsonline.com.